Hi, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving. Welcome to our Wednesday FSRC training. I am a little bit early today because we actually realized that we had a conflict and we have two classes scheduled for the same time. So I thought I'd hop on here and get things started a little bit early. So if you actually come on at 3 Hawaii time, which is 8 Eastern time for this, and you're catching the replay, then don't worry, because it's still here. You can still be able to watch it, right? So I'm going to go ahead and get started because I need to finish up because we have our boot camp training today with Travis, and we want to make sure that those of you that are hopping on for that at 3 are ready for it. So today I'm going to come to you talking to you about one of my favorite topics, and that is host coaching. And let me tell you why it's one of my favorite topics. It took me a while to figure this out in the business, but I realized that if host coaching became a priority to me, and if I became an expert at it, it fixed everything that was wrong with my business. No kidding. And let me tell you why. Good host coaching does several things. It gives you really good attendance. And so when you have good attendance, it's easy to date parties. And you obviously sell more because you have more people in attendance. And you have more people there to talk to about the opportunity. Good host coaching, as I said, also increases sales, but it also really helps you build this wonderful relationship with your hostesses where they become extremely loyal to you because the party is so successful and they get so much from it. And when your hostess feels like her time that she invested holding a party was so well worth her time, then she is going to sing your praises to everybody. It's going to be so easy for you to date parties with her friends because she's going to give you such good referrals. And she's going to become an awesome repeat host. And at some point, hopefully she'll become one of your Tupperware consultants. And because of the example of what you did at her party that you've set, she will become a very good consultant as well. So that's why I'm such a strong believer in becoming an expert at host coaching. So I think that becoming a real pro at this means that you just have to have some systems in place, because whenever you do something over and over and over, then you're going to get the same results. And let me give you an example of this. Let's use Starbucks as an example. It's one of my favorite places. And if I buy a Starbucks in Honolulu, or if I buy a Starbucks in Los Angeles, or if I buy one in Orlando, Florida, my venti vanilla latte always tastes the same. And the reason for that is that they have a system that they have taught all their baristas, and they all make it the same. Well, that's what I want you to learn to do. I want you to have a system that you put into place at your parties so that your parties are always successful. It's not going to be hit or miss. And yes, the customers are going to be different, but you will be using the same recipe, the same system for creating your final product. And so with that, let's get busy with thinking about, well, what is that system? So I want to share with you that there are what I call 6 most important components to a successful Tupperware party. And I am going to post a couple of things in the file section afterwards because I think that some of these you're going to want. And so just write down, like if you're watching this on replay, would you put #replay? And if there's something particular that you want me to post in the files, then post that in your comments as well. So let me just tell you the 6 things. I'm going to start them from the top, and then we're going to break them down into individual topics. So number 1 is a host with a goal. Number 2 is good attendance. Number 3 is a host that has what I call advanced orders. Next would be a dating waiting. Next is setting the stage for a repeat host. And lastly, but most importantly, is contact. So those are my 6 most important components for a successful Tupperware party. And we're going to dissect that now so we can talk a little bit about what that means. So first thing is let's think about what happens when somebody dates a party. When someone dates a Tupperware party with you, immediately you need to make sure that you give them the tools that they need. And the tools need to be our hostess packet. So in your kit, you got the really pretty not envelopes, folders. And inside of that, you want to have those all loaded. So whenever you go to a party or a vendor event or just driving around town, because you never know where you're going to date a party, you should always have these with you, so that you're ready to present them to someone the minute they say yes. So inside, you're going to want to put a couple of catalogs, brochures, and some customer order forms, because we want them to get advanced orders, and so you have to give them the tools that they need. Next is I like to give them a host sheet. Now the host sheet, there's a couple different versions. There's one that Tupperware makes, and it shows the current thank you gifts and the host offers that we have. But to be honest, we've got some other great ones that people create that are very creative. And so as long as you've got something in there that the host can look at to remind her, this is what I'm going to get, and this is what I need to do that. And then I like to give my hostess a challenge sheet. So I'm going to talk about a couple of different challenge sheets in a minute. So thinking about your business, you've got to decide which challenge sheet do you want to use. And I don't know that there's really one that's better than the other. I think it's a personal choice, but I will share with you two of the ones that I really like an awful lot. And then lastly, invitations, because I like to give my host physical invitations. Now, some people use the monthly flyers as an invitation. I don't. I actually use postcard invitations for my hosts, and I find that it's easier for the customers to realize that it's an invitation, and it's easier for them to keep that. They can put it on the refrigerator with a magnet. So I like that, and then I reward them when they bring the invitation back to the Tupperware party, because that means that they've had to keep a hold of it, and they've had to keep it in their sight for that time period between the day that they were invited and the day the actual party is actually held. So you want to give them the tools immediately. Now, sometimes people say, well, I don't give my hostess a packet right away because she's not having her party until the next brochure. Well, that doesn't mean she can't start inviting. And if you have a paid website, it also is all the more reason why you want to give them one now, because you would give them the current brochure so they could collect their advanced orders from the current brochure, and then you can order those through the Tupper Connect link. And that way she can start her party with a couple $100 worth of orders that you've gotten that way. And then when you do the party, you'll use the brochure that is current at that time. You can always either mail or email the printable flyer to the hostess once that's available. So give her the catalogs, give her the current order forms, give her everything else. And then if there's going to be another brochure, then you can always get that to her after the fact. But delaying when you're going to give that to her can frequently result in her losing her excitement and her enthusiasm about the party. And she doesn't start working on is to start working on that lickety-split as soon as they say, yes, I want them working on their Tupperware get-together. So that's a very important piece. So next, we've got to think about a goal. I want my hostess to have a goal. And so the best way to do that is to ask her which of the host gifts that she could get the most excited about. And that host sheet that I mentioned has a picture of those. Now, sometimes they're holding their party because they want free Tupperware. And if that's the case, then you want to not have them be so general and say, well, I just want free Tupperware. Specifically, which piece of Tupperware do you really have your heart set on? What do you really want to make sure that you earn? And that will help you to share with her exactly how much she's going to need to sell in order to qualify for that. Many times we have a host bonus offer where they can get extra host credit, and that will give them more of an opportunity to get bigger amounts of Tupperware. So that will help you to kind of set the stage for those dating. So there is a small place for a wish list on the folder. There's also on the host sheet that we give them. You may actually want to use a printed wish list sheet that you will also find circulating around from many people as well. So with that invitation that I mentioned, I like my hostesses to invite people 3 different ways. And so I call it the trifecta. So again, on your folder, there is a place to help your hostess build a good list, because a good party has people not just from work or not just from their family, but kind of from all walks of their lives. You know, if you help a hostess make that guest list kind of using the Frank concept like we do with new consultants, where they've got friends and relatives, acquaintances, neighbors, and coworkers, and contacts through their kids, your hostess will have a lot more people at the party. And she'll also have real diversity, which means that it's easy for you to date multiple parties because the datings are all going to go into a different direction. And so I like them to really be thinking about creating a guest list that's got variety to it. So the 3 different ways that I like my hostess to invite is, number 1, through personal invitation. And that's why I give her the little cards, the postcards, so that she can personally invite them and then hand them that personal invitation. I haven't talked to her about mailing them because, mail is so impersonal, and I want her to personally talk to those people. So a personal invitation is so important, and then hand them a postcard. The second thing that I want her to do is to create that Tupper Connect link. And actually I create that, but she's going to need to forward that, and that can be part of an invitation as well. And then lastly, but a huge part for me, is to use a Facebook event. Now, I know there's a lot of conversations between the difference between a Facebook group and a Facebook event, but there's a lot of issues for me for a group when I'm doing it for a specific party. And so I choose to use an event because it is a one-time event, and I'm not trying to keep that group open over and over. And I think that because of that, they're not as hesitant to be a part of that. So what I do is, when I'm dating a party, so let's say that I'm dating a party and Connie's on here right now. So I would say, so Connie, are you on Facebook? And she would say yes. And I'd say, well, what's your name on Facebook? Because sometimes they have different names, right? So she'll tell me, and I'm sitting there at a party, or I'm at an event or wherever I might be dating. And I will pull up that hostess's name then. Sometimes there's more than one, so I'll say, okay, I see one that's got a picture, and especially if they've got like a picture of, a puppy dog or something as their profile or something, you can't tell who it is. So just say, is it the one with the white dog? And they'll say yes. Okay, great, I'm sending you a friend request. Now, if I'm over the phone, I have to ask that. If I'm face to face, I'll say, is this you? And they'll say yes, and I'll say, okay, great. Now, as soon as you do that and you send them that friend request, because you're doing it while you're connecting with them right then and there, they typically will accept your friend request immediately. And it's important that you become a friend with each of your hostesses, because then I want to go in and create the Facebook event. I can put a great Tupperware banner on it. And then in the details section, I can talk a little bit about what we're going to do at the party. I personally like to do an auction party, so that's where I explain how the auction works. And then I invite one person. I only invite one person. That's the host. And her job is to invite all of her friends. And I find that when I have an evening Tupperware party and I come home, I've already friend requested the hostess. I come home, I sit down, I create that event that night because she's excited. And you got to strike when the iron is hot. Then I go to bed and I wake up the next morning and she's got like 27 people that she's invited, and 5 people have already said yes, they're coming. And that's exciting. It's exciting to me, but it's exciting to my host to see that quick she's already gotten some positivity about her Tupperware party. So that's why you want to move really quickly on that. So the challenges that I mentioned, everybody does things a little bit differently. I love the tic-tac-tupper. So if you've never seen that, it's basically a tic-tac-toe sheet, 9 squares that has 9 different challenges that they need to achieve. And when they do that, they get an X and they get 3 in a row. Then you give them a gift. So I love that. And I find that the hostesses kind of get a little almost competitive. They want to make sure they get as many tic-tac-toes as possible. So some of the things that are on those squares are to hold their party on the original scheduled date, to have 10 or more people in attendance. And this, when you're talking to her about this, you need to make sure that you encourage to over-invite, because only about 30% of the people they invite will be able to attend. $200 in advanced orders. Let your hostess know that I can't come does not mean that I'm not interested. It just means that maybe they have another commitment. And to have a dating waiting. So before before the party is actually held, she tells you, my friend Mary can't come but wants to have a party, or my friend Candy is coming and she's so excited. I know she's going to be dating a party because she told me she was. That's what we call a dating waiting. So by doing that, you've got your hostesses partnering with you to have a real successful party. When I get to the party that night, I always say, if they haven't told me on the phone already, I'll say, now who's the most likely person to date a Tupperware party? And that's when they'll say, I'm not sure. Or they'll say, oh my gosh, I already have my dating waiting. So that is a great way for you to be able to kind of get that in that dating momentum going, okay? So that is a little bit about that part of partnering with that hostess. Now, I mentioned contact. Oh my gosh, that is so critical. So you can't date a party and then show up 2 to 3 weeks later thinking it's going to happen. Doesn't work that way. So you've got to really be on it. Now, I got to tell you, this month I actually had a dental appointment and I had an appointment with my dermatologist. And in both cases, I had multiple forms of contact from them. I got a postcard in the mail, I got an email, I got a text message, and I also got a phone call to remind me of the appointment. Now, I wasn't forgetting the appointment, but that is their system that they have in place. And the reason for that is because a dentist, the dermatologist, or whatever other appointment that you might be looking at, they cannot afford to have that 20 or 30-minute time period sitting there empty because they're not making money. Well, guess what? You cannot afford it either. You are just as valuable, and your time is just as important as the dentist or the dermatologist. Because you know what? You can make just as much money as they do in this business if you work it like a business. Yes, you can. So you've got to do the exact same thing. So the very first thing that I do when I get home from a Tupperware get-together, I send a postcard. Thank you so much for dating your Tupperware party on, put the date. I'm looking forward to meeting all of your friends, sharing my passion about Tupperware, and showering you with free gifts. And then I sign my name. That's all there is to it. It is like 2 sentences, but it confirms the date and it lets them know that I appreciate them and I'm excited about their party. So that thank you for dating is like, it's part of the recipe that you just can't let go. It's like leaving the sugar out of something. I mean, it doesn't taste good. You can't leave certain things out of the recipe. So send a thank you for dating. Now, here's the easiest way to do this. Well, you don't even have to go anymore. I just order everything online, to be honest. Order postcard stamps ahead of time. And then I love the little Vistaprint cards that have got the Tupperware branding on it. So order the Vistaprint postcards, order yourself some postcard stamps, and that way you have everything at home. Just very convenient that you can do that. Now, when my kids were really little, I'm going to tell you what I did. I don't do this anymore, but this is what I used to do. I had little tiny kids when I was first selling Tupperware. And so, you know, you're so excited and you're in the mode, but you come home and, you know, the house is, everything's happening, right? You're hoping and praying that the kids are in bed, but you know, sometimes you walk in and who knows what's going on. And so all the best laid plans sometimes don't happen. So what I learned to happen is I kept a little stack of postcards inside of my date book. And then I would pull up in my driveway and I'd sit there listening to the song that was playing, and I'd pull out my postcards and I'd look to the 2 or 3 datings that I just dated that night, and I'd sit there and I'd write the thank you note sitting in my driveway with the music playing before I walked into the house. They already had the stamps on them. Then guess what I did? I walked straight out to the end of the driveway and put them in my mailbox and put the flag up. That got them done. Because if I went in the house and then you wake up in the morning and who knows what's going to happen and the kids are late for school, or it just doesn't happen. And next thing you know, 4 days have gone by and you have not sent a postcard. And you're thinking, oh, nah, I won't even do it. It's better late than never. But truly, if you will make a habit of doing it in your driveway, it's going to happen, and it will be so impactful because they'll probably get that postcard like within 2 days, and they'll be like, wow, this girl's really on it. And that's what you want them to think. You want them to think, you're on it, man. They're going to have a Tupperware party. They want somebody that's got it together. So the next thing is you got to do what's called keep in touch calls. And your keep in touch calls are really follow-ups to everything that's in the packet. So you want to talk to them about those challenges. So how are you doing on your guest list? I noticed on your Facebook invitation that you only added 15 names. And remember, only about a third of the people are going to be able to attend. So that's only about 5. So can you think really hard about some of the other people that you might be able to invite? So talk to them about the things that you mentioned, but maybe they didn't pay attention to it. Or say, oh my gosh, I noticed that you've got 8 people coming to your Tupperware party. That's so exciting. You're so close to having 10. As you're making your reminder calls, I want to encourage you to have them bring a friend, and that will help to boost your attendance. Talk with them about their orders. So how are you doing on your advanced orders? Remember, you get a gift when you've got your $200 in advance. And so if they've got people that can't come, that's easy. Remind them if you've given them a brochure that's going to end. Now, the brochure that I put in your packet, remember, that's going to end this coming Friday. So if you've got any orders for those, I need to get those prior to the party. So this Friday is when I need to key those. So let's connect on Friday, and that way I can get those from you. And those are all going to be counting as part of your advanced orders. Has anybody mentioned to you yet? So you don't want to talk about each of these things every time you call, but maybe one topic each phone call. So maybe the attendance the first time, then the absentee order, and then the last phone call is the dating waiting, because she's still got time to work on that, right? So those keep in touch contacts are so important. Now I have a little checklist that I've created. It's just my system, because if you're doing more than a couple of parties a month, or, you know, in some people's cases, several parties a week, it is easy to get parties confused and think, did I do that for Connie, or was that Candy, or was that Angie? I'm not sure. So you can sometimes get a little just confused. And so having a checklist for each party is a great way to do that. So my checklist system is it's 10 steps, and I glue them just with a glue stick to the outside of a manila envelope. And then as I do it, I just check it off. And then anything and everything that has to do with that party goes in that manila envelope. So that's where I actually keep a copy of the flyer that was happening at that time. So if I ever have to go back, I know it was on sale. That's where I put her orders and her order forms and her money when I leave the party. After I've submitted the party, I get that little page that says, congratulations, your order has successfully been submitted. I click on the little plus sign, and it expands the items that are ordered. And then I print that. I print the whole thing, and that way I have a record of everything that happened at that party, and that goes in that manila envelope, and it stays there forever. So that's just my system of what I do with all of those parties. So that gives you a little bit about my system. So let's go back to the very beginning, the 6 steps. 6 components, a host with a goal. So use that wish list to help her to develop how much does she need to sell. Good attendance, so that challenge sheet will help, talking to her about over-inviting. Advanced orders, very important, so utilize maybe the current brochure to do that, or something that is a reason for her to work on things ahead of time. The dating waiting, so that's somebody that maybe cannot come, or just someone that's really exciting. Setting the stage for the repeat host. That's happening because you're building that relationship, and she's so incredibly happy with the results of her party. And lastly, contact. And so use some kind of system to make sure that your follow-up is there and that you're able to follow through. So I want to thank you all for being a part of today's call. And if you're watching this after the fact, because we did start just a little bit early, I want you to just put in hashtag and replay. If you have any questions, again, go ahead and type them in there. I'll check back a little bit later on tonight. I want to wish you all a very, very happy Thanksgiving. We are all very thankful for this wonderful opportunity. And I know that each of us, I will speak for your business leaders, are very thankful for each and every one of you for being a part of our life. So I'm going to wrap things up now, because in just a few minutes, Travis is going to be hopping on and he will be doing boot camp. And so I know he's got a lot to share with all of you. So bye, everybody. Have a great, great holiday.